Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll set up a Node.js Express app with Typescript. I'll guide you through setting up the project, configuring Typescript, and integrating Prettier and ESLint to keep your code clean. We'll also automate code checks with lint-staged and Husky, and add Jest for unit testing. By the end, you will have a development environment that ensures your code is consistent, error-free, and fully tested before every commit. Let's get started. To start with, I've set up a GitHub project, YT Typescript Express, and I've cloned the project locally. The next step is to cd into the project folder and init the Node.js project. With our project initialized, we need to install Express and Typescript, along with some necessary type definitions. Next up, let's generate a tsconfig.json file, which is Typescript's configuration file. Open up the tsconfig.json file and make sure it looks something like this. These settings are pretty standard for a Node.js project with Typescript. Now, let's create the src directory and add our first TypeScript file for the Express server. Inside the index.ts file we've just created, we want to create a simple Express server that responds with hello TypeScript with Express when you visit the root URL. First, we will import Express from the Express package along with the request and response types. We call Express to create our app and define the port we want to run the app from. Next, we define a get endpoint which returns our string. And finally, set the app to listen on the port, along with a console log to run when the server is started. Now that we have our server, let's add some scripts to our package.json file. These will help us build, start, and develop our app. You may notice the dev script uses a package called tsconfig.json. This is a great tool for running your TypeScript code directly in development mode. We don't have that installed yet, so let's install that into our dev dependencies. Now that's installed, we can run the dev command and we can curl localhost 3000 to ensure our server is working as expected. Now let's set up ESLint to help identify code issues. We started by installing some packages. The packages are ESLint, which is the code linter, at Typescript ESLint/parser, which allows ESLint to understand TypeScript, and at Typescript ESLint/ESLint plugin, which is a collection of ESLint rules specifically tailored for TypeScript code. You will need to set up an ESLint rc.json file and configure it as shown. Next step is to add an additional script to the package.json to run ESLint. And then we're going to run the lint script to see if we have any errors. Looking in the console, we have an error regarding the ESLint rc.json config file. For ESLint version 9, this needs to be in a different format. If we follow the link in the console to the ESLint website, we can get a script to run which will run the migration automatically and generate a new config file. After the migration, you'll be asked to install 2 packages in order for the new config file to work. In your project folder, you should see a new config file, eslint.config.mjs. The old eslint.json file can now be deleted. Now we have ESLint set up, the next step is to set up Prettier. We need to install 3 packages. Firstly, Prettier, which is the code format itself. ESLint config Prettier, which disables ESLint rules that might conflict with Prettier. And ESLint plugin Prettier, which runs Prettier as an ESLint rule. After that, create a .prettierrc file in the root of your project. This file will contain your Prettier configuration. You can customize these settings to your preference. For example, I've set it to use single quotes, add trailing commas where possible, limit line length to 80 characters, use 2 spaces per tab, and always use semicolons. Finally, let's create a Prettier ignore file to tell Prettier which files and directories to ignore. This will prevent Prettier from formatting files in these directories, which is usually what you want. Now we have Prettier installed, let's add a script for ease of running the formatter. ESLint and Prettier can conflict with each other, as although they both serve different purposes, they sometimes overlap in the responsibilities they handle. We need to amend the ESLint config file so it can run Prettier as an ESLint rule, and also disable any ESLint rules that may conflict with Prettier. To do so, add these 2 lines to the eslint.config.mjs file. Next up, let's automate the linting and formatting process by setting up our project to run Prettier and ESLint on files before every commit. To do this, we will install 2 packages, lint-staged and Husky. Lint-staged automatically runs specified linters or scripts on files that are staged on Git before they are committed, ensuring code quality and formatting are enforced only on changed files. Husky, on the other hand, allows you to easily manage Git hooks, enabling you to run scripts like lint-staged automatically at various stages of the Git flow, such as before committing or pushing code. Next, initialize Husky by running npx husky init. This will add a .husky folder at the root of your project, along with a pre-commit hook file already in place. We need to add our script to this file in order for Husky to know what to do at the pre-commit stage. We can either write directly in the file or use the command line to add this. Now we have our pre-commit hook in place, we need to define the script that has to be run. We do this by adding a lint-staged property in our package.json with ESLint and Prettier scripts. And that's it. Now every time you commit, Prettier and ESLint will automatically run on your staged files, ensuring that your code is clean and consistent. Let's give it a try by making a small change, staging the file and committing it. Unit testing is a must for a complete setup. Just like our linters, we want to run unit tests on staged files. Let's add npm test to our Husky pre-commit hook. We'll run it after our linters and formatters since their changes could potentially break some tests. Now when we try to commit, we'll hit an error because we haven't defined the test script yet in package.json. To fix this, we're going to add Jest to the project. The three packages we need to install are Jest, the testing framework, tsJS, which is a Jest transformer that enables you to run TypeScript code directly in Jest without pre-compiling it, @type/Jest, which is the TypeScript type definitions for Jest, providing auto-completion and type checking in your tests. After the packages are installed, we need to initialize Jest with a configuration that's tailored for TypeScript. This will create a tsconfig.js file, which Jest uses to know how to run our tests. Here's what the generated tsconfig.js file looks like. This configuration uses tsJS to integrate Jest with TypeScript, and it sets the test environment to Node. If you want to customize your TypeScript configuration specifically for Jest, you can create a separate tsconfig.jest.json file. The file should look something like this. After that, you need to update your jest.config.js to use this configuration. Now let's add a script to our package.json so we can easily run our tests. Now we have our test script. We can run tests by simply typing npm test. Now when we run a test for the first time, you can see that there's an error which is saying that there's no tests found. So let's write our first test. Our unit test will be for index.ts file and consists of making sure our Express server is handling requests correctly. First, we'll create a test directory and add our first test file. In order to test a request, we will use supertest, which is a popular library for testing HTTP servers. We will need to install the package and its type definitions. After that, we can write our test using supertest to simulate a GET request to the root endpoint, and then check that the response status code is 200 and the body of a response is the expected text. If everything is set up correctly, we should see the test pass confirming that our server is responding as expected. When we have our test, we should see the pre-commit hook kick in when we come to check in our code. Alright, that's it for today's setup. We've built a solid foundation for our Node.js Express app with TypeScript, added Prettier and ESLint for consistent code formatting and linting, automated our pre-commit checks with lint-staged and Husky, and set up Jest for unit testing. This environment ensures your code stays clean, reliable and fully tested before it hits your main branch. But we're not stopping here. In the next part, we'll dive into setting up code coverage with Jest and other advanced configurations to take your project to the next level. So make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to catch that video when it drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in part 2.